Una menina fununi, no, 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 no.
Helena Caleb Morrow, case log number 1. Compiled by Detective Elias Crow, location, Ashmore Police Department, personal case files, status, closed, subject deceased. Introduction. This file documents the life, crimes, and eventual death of Caleb Morrow, also known as the Silencer. The subject is responsible for multiple murders across Ashmore and surrounding areas. Evidence also suggests possible psychological manipulation by supernatural forces connected to Ashmore's long history of strange events. This report is based on police files, witness statements, and personal investigation notes. Early childhood. The 1996 incident. Caleb Morrow was born in 1996 in Ashmore. He lived with his mother, Marilyn Morrow, and his younger sister. The home was described by neighbors as isolated and unhealthy. Marilyn Morrow reportedly suffered from severe psychological issues and rarely allowed her children outside. School reports describe Caleb as socially withdrawn, emotionally unstable, frequently bullied by classmates, highly dependent on his mother. Witnesses from his school described him as quiet and disturbing, often staring at people without speaking. At some point during his childhood, Marilyn Morrow died under unclear circumstances. Child Protective Services removed Caleb's younger sister from the home shortly afterward. The girl was adopted by another family and given a new name. That child later became Sarah McLean. Caleb never entered foster care. Instead, he disappeared into the woods surrounding Ashmore at age 15. This was the last confirmed sighting of him for several years. The 2011 event. In 2011, reports surfaced from a remote village outside Ashmore involving the destruction of a strange family believed to be part of a species known as Vordalax. The entire house burned down. Witness reports were limited, but descriptions mention a masked individual seen near the scene shortly before the fire. Evidence strongly suggests Caleb Morrow was responsible. This incident may represent one of his earliest violent encounters after disappearing into the wilderness. However, the motivation behind the killings remains unclear. The 2012 murders. Caleb Morrow resurfaced in 2012. During this time, he committed a series of murders across the outskirts of Ashmore. Victims included a group of young adults on a rural highway, several isolated individuals attacked at night. Witnesses consistently described the killer as wearing dark clothing, carrying a large knife, wearing a blank white mask, completely silent during attacks. This behavior led investigators to begin referring to the suspect as the Silencer. Eventually, police tracked Caleb into Devourer's Woods. He was apprehended after a confrontation with law enforcement. He was declared criminally insane and transferred to a psychiatric asylum rather than prison. The 2026 escape. In October 2026, Caleb Morrow escaped custody during a prison transfer. The transport bus crashed during a storm, allowing several inmates to escape. Caleb disappeared into Ashmore shortly afterward. Over the course of 1 week, he murdered 6 people. This period coincided with the time I was reviewing the first volume of Ashmore's historical supernatural case reports. Victims during this period remain officially documented, but are not publicly released. Confirmed murders in Ashmore, 2026. Riverside District. Caleb murdered a man in an alleyway in the Ashmore Riverside District. The victim died from multiple stab wounds. No witnesses were present. Industrial District. Sometime later that year, another victim was found in the Ashmore Industrial District. The body showed the same method of killing, knife wounds, no signs of struggle. Attack happened extremely quickly. The Party House Incident. Later that same year, Caleb entered a house where several teenagers were holding a party. Among them was Sarah McLean. Unbeknownst to her at the time, Sarah was Caleb's younger sister. Caleb killed several individuals inside the house before confronting Sarah. Police arrived during the incident. I personally confronted the suspect on the upper floor balcony. After firing my weapon, Caleb fell from the balcony and disappeared from the scene. The hospital fire. Sarah McLean was transported to Ashmore Memorial Hospital following the attack. Caleb infiltrated the hospital shortly afterward and murdered several staff members while searching for her. I arrived before he could reach her again. During the confrontation, a fire broke out in the hospital. The blaze spread rapidly throughout the building. Caleb Morrow was last seen inside the burning structure. The building collapsed shortly afterward. His body was never conclusively identified. However, given the circumstances, he is presumed dead. Aftermath. Although Sarah McLean survived the attacks, she suffered severe psychological trauma. Witness statements and medical reports confirmed that she began experiencing hallucinations of the silencer following the incident. These visions appear to be connected to the traumatic events she experienced. Final notes. Caleb Morrow was a product of extreme childhood trauma, isolation, and mental instability. However, several unexplained elements surrounding his behavior suggest outside influences. Specifically, there are references within other Ashmore case files to an ancient demonic entity known as Mousareth, which is believed to corrupt hosts and influence violent behavior. Whether Caleb was truly influenced by such forces remains unknown. Case status: closed subject, deceased, presumed, filed by Detective Elias Crow, end of case log number 1. Ashmore Files, case file number 1, Whisperjack, recorded by Detective Elias Crow, location personal investigation, notes, Ashmore, status unconfirmed, possibly active. Opening statement. Ashmore has always had strange stories. Most of them are just that, stories. Local myths, urban legends, but every once in a while something appears that doesn't fit neatly into the categories of hoaxes or misunderstandings. One of those cases involves a strange object recovered several years ago, a puppet, but not an ordinary puppet. This case file concerns the entity known as Whisperjack. Initial discovery. The first report involving Whisperjack appeared in 2004. Police were called to a small abandoned theater on the edge of Ashmore's older districts. The building had once been used for children's puppet shows decades earlier before closing down in the late 1980s. The responding officers reported finding signs that someone had recently been inside the building. Footprints, broken furniture, and strange writing on the stage wall. But the most unusual thing they found was sitting on the main stage, a wooden puppet. Description of the puppet. The puppet was approximately 2 feet tall. It appeared hand-carved from old wood. Its appearance was unsettling. Features included a wide carved smile that stretched too far across its face, hollow eye sockets filled with small glass marbles, long, thin wooden fingers, strings attached to its arms and legs despite there being no puppeteer. Its clothing appeared old and dusty, resembling a faded stage costume. The puppet was later labeled Whisperjack after the name written repeatedly on the theater wall. The writing investigators discovered the word Whisperjack written across several surfaces backstage. The words were scratched into wood, painted onto curtains, and written across mirrors. However, the most disturbing message appeared directly behind the stage curtain. The phrase read, "The puppet does not need strings." Witness accounts. A local teenager who had been exploring the abandoned theater with friends was the person who originally called the police. His statement was unusual. According to him, they had found the puppet sitting in a chair backstage. At first, they assumed it was a prop, but he claimed that while the group was arguing about whether to take it home, one of his friends heard whispering. No one else heard the voice clearly. But the witness insisted the whisper came from the puppet. The group fled the building shortly afterward. When police arrived, the puppet was exactly where the teenagers described. Evidence collected. The puppet was taken into evidence and briefly held at the Ashmore Police Department. But the situation became stranger during storage. Officers reported several odd occurrences over the following days. The puppet occasionally appeared to change position slightly. A night guard reported hearing whispering coming from the evidence locker. A small scratch mark appeared on the inside of the locker door despite it being sealed. Because of these incidents, the object was eventually transferred to the Ashmore Museum's restricted archive, where other unusual items connected to local events are stored. Current status. The puppet remains locked away. No confirmed incidents involving it have occurred since its transfer. However, the witness who originally discovered it later reported something disturbing during a follow-up interview. He claimed that while leaving the theater that night, he heard the whisper again, and he claimed it said something very specific. The voice said, "I only play with people who listen." Personal notes. Unlike most cases in Ashmore, this one doesn't involve a creature, a curse, or a demonic host. It involves an object, and objects are harder to understand. You can arrest a killer, you can burn a monster, but you can't interrogate a puppet. Still, something about this case bothers me, because in all the photographs taken that night in the theater, the puppet's head is always turned slightly differently, like it's looking at someone or something. Ashmore Files continue. Next file, Ashmore Files number 2, The Lupo of Devourer's Woods.
Yeah?
Here's your story, written in a long story format, like the previous A Long Halloween Night volumes. #, A Long Halloween Night, Volume 4-1, Deceased. The year is 2026. Ashmore sits in uneasy quiet, its streets slick from the first frost of late October. But the shadows know better. Some things never truly die. Lydia Hart moves carefully through the empty lot behind the old cemetery, her breath fogging in the cold night air. She glances down at the shallow grave, the earth still freshly turned. Inside lies the body she's obsessed with making sure stays gone. Caleb Morrow, the silencer. For years, she has lived with the fear, the hallucinations, the nightmares, and the memory of what he did, what he nearly did to her. Tonight, she makes sure of it. She and her friend push aside the thin layer of dirt and open the coffin. The cold metal and wood groan as if warning her to stop. Inside, Caleb's body lies limp, the fire from Ashmore Memorial Hospital having left him a charred husk of flesh. "Just one last check," her friend whispers. Lydia doesn't answer. She only watches. Her friend moves closer and, without warning, drives a rusted metal pole through Caleb's chest. The moment the metal pierces him, a jagged streak of lightning arcs from the storm above, splitting the sky. It strikes the pole and courses into his body. Lydia's stomach twists. She wants to look away, but she can't. Caleb's eyes snap open. The fire-blackened skin seems to twitch unnaturally. He sits up, a low groan escaping his lips, unnatural and hollow. A greenish-gray light flickers beneath his burned flesh. The silencer is back. The friend screams. Caleb rises fully, a walking nightmare. His motions are jerky but unstoppable. A hand slams down and crushes the friend's chest in an instant. There is no reasoning, no mercy, only killing. Lydia runs, adrenaline carrying her faster than she ever thought possible.
Here is the fixed version of the story.
Here's a full write-up for A Long Halloween Night, Volume 4, Number 1, Deceased, based on your instructions, written like a proper story. A Long Halloween Night, Volume 4, Number 1, Deceased. The wind howled across the outskirts of Ashmore, carrying the bitter scent of rain and smoke. It was 2026, and the night was fractured by memories too sharp to ignore. Sarah McLean stood in the abandoned graveyard on the edge of town. She had made sure, triple-checked,
I'm doing
the silencer
Mom
was
is
buried
ordering
deep.
groceries online.
The memory of his eyes, wide and unfeeling as he had stalked her for years, still burned in her mind. But fear and trauma alone weren't enough tonight. Something had pulled her back. She needed certainty. Beside her, her friend, whose name she barely registered in the frenzy, helped her dig up the grave. The soil was cold and wet, clinging to their hands as they unearthed the coffin. Sarah hesitated for a second, heart hammering, then nodded to her friend. The metal pole was driven into the ground, directly over Caleb's prone body. Sarah's friend muttered something about giving him a proper electric burial. Old legends, superstitions, whatever it was. But no one could have predicted what happened next. Lightning tore from the storm above, striking the metal pole. Caleb Morrow's body convulsed violently as green and black energy coiled across his skin. His corpse ripped free of the soil, eyes now hollow, lifeless, yet burning with a malice that wasn't human anymore. His first victim was the friend who had stabbed the pole. They barely had time to scream before Caleb's hands, once trembling with fear and guilt, closed around their throat. The life was gone before Sarah could even react. She ran, heart in her throat, lungs burning, but she didn't look back. Caleb, the silencer, the boy she once called her brother in memory, now a corrupted zombie-like horror, rose from the earth. His mind, torn and twisted by Malzaret's influence long ago, no longer held compassion or restraint. The voice of his mother haunted him in whispers, but it was drowned out by the black rage inside him. He had no care left for mercy, for right or wrong.
That's their fault for fighting. They shouldn't have been fighting.
Sarah fled through the foggy streets of Ashmore, heading straight to Detective Elias Crow. She needed help, someone who had always been her anchor.
Maybe you were right for
Caleb
keeping
didn't
us
follow
home
her
yesterday.
directly.
For keeping Henry home
He hunted the
yesterday.
streets, killing with precision and malice. Anyone unfortunate enough to cross his path,
Probably.
neighbors, strangers, those who lived near her route, met a grisly fate. When she finally reached Crow's office, she didn't
What you
even
got?
knock. Bursting in, she explained in bursts of
What kind
fear
of chips
between
you want? You want the
gasps.
sun chips
Crow
again, the
grabbed his
saucy
gun
sun
and
chips
followed
again?
her outside, scanning the streets with experience that had been earned through years of horrors. And then he saw him, Caleb Morrow. Not alive, not dead, but something else entirely. The zombie's pale, bruised skin glistened under the storm lights, his eyes hollow yet burning with fury. Crow raised his gun and fired. Caleb's body flinched, convulsed, and staggered back, but he didn't fall. As Crow prepared to fire again, Caleb disappeared into the shadows, a phantom, a revenant of Ashmore's worst nightmare. Sarah sank to her
Did you
knees,
get
trembling,
Mom's text
feeling the
today?
old terror rise anew. Crow placed a steadying hand on her
Mom
shoulder.
wants to know
He had
if you
seen
got
many
her
horrors,
text.
but even he knew this wasn't over.
She
End
texted
credits
you
scene.
earlier today.
A lone figure stands under a flickering neon sign. Welcome to Jackson City. The rain drips from the letters. Caleb Morrow, corpse-like but terrifyingly alive, tilts his head. The whisper of his mother echoes faintly. Good boy, you've done nothing wrong. But Caleb doesn't answer. His mind, shattered from years under Malzaret's shadow, has no care left for judgment, morality, or mercy. The screen fades to black. To be continued. If you want, I can also write a full timeline of the silencer Caleb Morrow from childhood to deceased, including all hallucinations, the hospital fire, and ghostly appearances of his mother, to make it easier to track his full character arc. Do you want me to do that next?
I was hoping for tonight. I heard. Right. All right. All right. Yep. I know. I love you too.
Love you.
Bye. Huh? That was Chris.
God damn.
Groceries.
3 something. 3
I think
like
it's
325, 345, something like that.
I
Okay.
got Mom in trouble.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah. Love you too.
Love you.
Love you too.
Yeah. Yeah. With what? Alright.
Yeah. Yeah. How was your day?
Do you?
Yeah.
Alright, so Izzy come over and decorated.
Okay. That's good for her.
And Elise, she had texted me and she was like, oh, I overslept. I don't know how I'm getting dang. Blah, 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 blah. She was like, is there any way you can send me some money so I can get a lift? I said, yeah, I'll send you 20. So I sent her 20, and then she said, oh, well, it's going to cost me $18 just one way.
Mm-hmm.
So she ended up having Andy bring Dane into Myers.
Mm-hmm.
And from Myers, I guess they took a lift to Super 8 where she was staying. Where's my keys? You had them? They're in the door, I bet. Look on the door. And so then she told Izzy at first to meet her at 11:15. Well, heck, it was almost noon before Izzy even left there.
Uh-huh.
To go pick him up. All right. To go pick him up. And then, they were back here by
Yeah, I didn't put on.
fuck one.
Malzareth. The book of Mauser Dowsereth.
Your birthday boy.
We got you out.
Ah.
I guess that ain't that bad if the quarter's over.
Who are you checking?
Here's a full write-up for a long
Yeah,
Halloween night
your
volume 4, The
your
Book of
was grade
Malzareth,
D
following your
minus for
outline.
third quarter.
A long Halloween night, volume 4, number 2,
Mine.
The Book of Malzareth.
Spanish.
The room was dark, lit only
I
with the
Hey.
said, I
flickering glow
guess
of
Henry's
candles.
won't be that
Detective
bad,
Phineas
even though
Crow
it's
sat at his
12.
desk in Ashmore, a thick
Hey,
ancient
we
tome
got-
before him.
We got
Its
A
leather
plus.
cover was cracked
The
and scorched
estimated
in parts.
binder should
Its
be
pages
an A
yellowed
plus,
with
an
age,
F, a B
but it
plus,
read something
an A
almost
plus,
alive,
and
as if it remembered every dark act committed in Ashmore. The Book of Malzareth. Crow carefully opened it, the air around him seeming to thicken with a weight that pressed on his chest. The writing was strange, a mixture of symbols and words, some almost impossible to decipher. But the old museum curator had told him it held the truth of Malzareth, the demon that had haunted Ashmore for centuries. Connection to past hosts. The first few pages detailed what Crow already suspected. Malzareth was no ordinary entity. It didn't merely possess, it chose, and it left a trace, a corruption, in anyone it touched. Father Solomon Vire, the cult leader from the 1600s who had attempted to summon Malzareth. The book claimed the demon had latched onto his spirit even after it supposedly left him, leaving him a rotting husk wandering Ashmore. Byrock, the goat man, a host from the 1700s, driven to violence and murder, his mind shattered. According to the text, Malzareth fed on the rage and bloodshed he committed, leaving an imprint in Ashmore itself.
Yeah.
Vermix, the rat creature of the sewers. Crow's eyes widened as he read. Vermix wasn't merely an animal mutation. It had been partially infused with Malzareth's energy from an early host, making it more intelligent, more cunning, and bound to spread chaos in the town. The Mothman, an enigma. The book suggested that it wasn't inherently evil, but had been a vessel in its early days, a watcher. Malzareth used to influence humans subtly, especially children, drawing them into peril. Whisperjack, the malevolent puppet from Volume 3. Malzareth's energy had allowed it to animate beyond any human hand, feeding on fear, leaving Crow to note that perhaps Malzareth had been experimenting with non-human vessels. The Silencer, Caleb Morrow. Crow's hands shook as he read the section on Caleb. The book implied that Malzareth had been subtly influencing him even before the hospital fire and the events in Ashmore. His murderous tendencies, the obsession with Sarah McLean, it was all feeding the demon's essence, even though Malzareth never fully possessed him after the hospital incident. Patterns and Observations. The book laid out a chilling truth. Malzareth didn't need to fully possess someone to corrupt them. It left fragments of itself behind, whispering in dreams, altering emotions, nudging its hosts toward darkness. Each previous host had been different, each bringing something unique to the demon's ever-growing presence in Ashmore. Crow traced his finger across a diagram in the book. Lines connected the names of past hosts: Solomon, Byrock, Vermix, Whisperjack, Caleb. It was like a dark genealogy, a chain of terror spanning centuries. The detective realized that the town of Ashmore itself was a kind of incubator. Malzareth's energy had been seeping into it for hundreds of years, leaving monsters, cults, and tragedies in its wake. Closing notes. Crow closed the book carefully, the weight of the knowledge pressing on him. So every horror, every monster, every tragedy in this town, it's not random, he muttered. It's part of him, part of Malzareth. And if he's still moving, then this isn't over. Outside, the wind rattled the windows. Something moved in the shadows. Crow's hand instinctively went to his sidearm. Somewhere in Ashmore, one of Malzareth's remnants waited. To be continued. If you want, I can make a full visual Malzareth connection chart showing all hosts, Vermix, Mothman, Whisperjack, Lupo, and Silencer in a genealogy-style diagram to make it easier to see how the demon spreads through Ashmore over centuries. Do you want me to do that next?